Good morning, everybody, and how is everybody doing out there? It's Ebrahim Mbokazi over here, as you know, and welcome to another video for today. So on today's video, I'm quite very excited on what's going on today's video. It's going to be an awesome video for today. So on today's stream, like I said, we have the two awesome gentlemen who are so awesome. These guys are into the property space. They are out here killing it as young African brothers. Yo, man, these guys are all out here in the property market, and it's so amazing to actually see guys like you're actually doing such big things within the property market space. So can you actually hear me, guys?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah. Okay, before we get started, I just want a quick intro on your side. So we're going to start from the right hand side, from my right hand side, going to the left hand side, and with just a small explanation basically on what the business is all about, so people can actually understand what exactly are you doing within the property space. So can we just have a small intro to start off everything?
Okay. It's quite difficult, you know, when we're sitting and all facing that way. You know that your right is this side, so now we're assuming that your right is.
So you can start on your right hand side.
Okay, so now with property investing it's such a huch thing, because now what we do basically investing. Right?
Let's start with the names. With the names. So because like I said before, I get normally confused with the names. So let's start with the names.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Lebu, and
my name is Nero.
So we are in property. So now what happens in property is that what we do is that we buy property and then we sell it back into the market. So now sometimes we do actually buy and do rent it out to actually people.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I mean, why we joined property investing is that we were, after graduating, we asked ourselves, what is that evergreen career that we're still going to be relevant in the next 20 to 30 years or even 50? So we're thinking that what can't be replaced by an app? Then we knew that it must be property. So hence we are here, man. Hence we are here.
Hence you are here. Great indeed. So with this whole property business, because it's very, very advanced, I must say. There's a lot of things when it comes to property, especially with finance. You need to be good with numbers and stuff like that. So at what age would you say that y'all had that motivation to actually jump into property and actually start learning further into property? Because one thing about property, you don't learn investing property in school. You learn it basically, it's either in university or out of university, or you are mentored by somebody. Like I want to know, like, who inspired you, or what inspired you actually to actually get into property, and how did you actually take that route to say, okay, this is the route that we take it into property? Where did it all start?
I think with that particular question, it's mostly the same with every one of us, right? We started with the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. I think that's
great book.
That's the varsity of entrepreneurship. So now that's how it started. We started in grade 12. I think I was in grade 12, but now it was still that, should I do it? Should I not? I think that a lot of people actually get stuck in that part, that should I actually invest in property, or am I too young, or am I too old? It actually started there, reading that book with the Rich Dad Poor Dad. So now what happened is that the family was like, guys, you know what? You need to go to school. After going to school, then you're going to work. That's it. And we're like, okay, let's just see what's going to happen. So now we went to school, we studied. After studying, we were like, you know what? We're no more going to waste any time. Now it's time for us to actually go into the property industry. Because now, be it that we're going to say that we're going to do it 10 years from now, or we're going to do it today. I mean, 10 years from now, you're only delaying the process. We always speak about bringing the process closer. So now we were like, okay, let's take the leap of faith, man, and then let's see what's going to happen.
And I really like what you just highlighted there, is that the credit side, is that how the bank sees you, especially when you're coming from, I can't necessarily say previously disadvantaged, but let's say that mommy and daddy don't have that 2 million to give you to say, you know what, here's the 2 million, go invest in property. Now that means that you need to use credit facilities, or the banks, as we can say. So looking at that route is that, because we don't want to talk about something that's not out there. So I'm not going to say that if you're 17 years, you can go to a bank, apply for a home loan, and then get it, and then become instant. There are so you need to strategically position yourself. This is something that you need to be thinking about. As much as you are young, you need to be thinking about if I don't have that amount, if mommy and daddy don't have that 2 million to give me, let's go invest. You need to be thinking about how am I going to position myself so that the bank can see me in a way whereby, you know what, let's go, Ebrahim, there you go, 2 million. And now this is where it gets interesting. Even when they do give you that 2 million, you need to know that you're using credit. And once I start using credit, it needs to cash flow positive. I do not have that space where I can cash flow positive, because what will happen is that if I'm not able to pay the bank as young as 18, 19, or 20, whichever age that I join property, I would have ruined my reputation with the bank. And that's not what you want to see yourself in. So you need to be very careful, and you need to know what you're doing to the team.
Yes, yeah. I love what you said over there, for instance, like how to use credit, because I also attended one of the seminars of the Rich Dad Poor Dad, and like credit is a thing that people normally look at as if it's a bad thing because they do not know how to actually use it. And I really learned a lot about credit. Another thing that also I want to touch upon is like I also heard this term OPM. I don't know if I'm sure you came across it. OPM, other people's money, how to actually get into property with other people's money. So I actually also did some research on that and actually saw that there are people that are actually offering their money to actually invest in property spaces to people that actually know what they are doing and actually have that knowledge of investing in property. So what I want to know with you, how does like a usual person like me, for instance, who is still a beginner, who has no credit score, who has no like understanding of finance, but I want to get into property, what advice would you give me as a start of, okay, like for instance, this way you should start off if you want to get into property? For instance, let's just say I'm just getting out of high school and I want to get into property. Which steps would you advise me to take before getting into actual property, like putting my money in property? Like which steps would you advise me to take?
When we're sitting, sorry about that. When we're sitting here and talking about other people's money and then starting with other people's money, then leveraging off that, it's something that sounds quite interesting, and it's something that sounds easy, that I'm just gonna go out there and then use somebody's money and then make a profit for them, and then that's how I'm going to grow. But now, if we are being practical, about this, and what does it really mean? Now, if I was to ask you, so we're changing shifts now, Ebrahim. You don't know us. It's the first time I come to you, and then I just come to you and say, you know what? How about you borrow me 1 million? I want to buy a property, and then it's going to be under my name, and then you get something in return. What would you say? I just want to put it to you as a question so that we can really understand what other people's money means. What would you say if it's the first time that you met us, and then I asked you for 1 million, and you had that 1 million? Would you be like, okay, there we go?
I would have a ton of questions. Obviously, the first thing is first ask a lot of questions, and I would want to see some physical paperwork saying that you really have a good money management. That's the first thing is first. I need to be assured that my money is going to come back. I'm not just going to give you $1 million. I need to be assured that there is a return on that money. So there's a whole lot of questions basically that would actually follow up on that question.
100%. Now, as a beginner, because I want to make this as practical as possible. So now, as a beginner, you at the beginning stage, and you did mention that you want that paper trail whereby this person has managed X amount of money. So a 25-year-old or 20-year-old now comes to you and say that, okay, man, you know what? I need this amount of money for this property investing, and then you say that you want the paper trail and evidence that I've actually handled money. Do you think that I would have that paper trail with me?
No, no. I understand where you go. Not at all. I totally understand where it's going.
Even with other people's money, I think we shouldn't just leave it there. We should go in depth, because what we like, even with our channel, even with our clients, what I like is putting something as practical as possible. And I'm not saying that it's impossible. We need to also look at laws that govern this, because now if I'm going to be asking people for money to invest in the property that I'm going to buy, I need to know now. Now I'm actually getting other people's money. Do I have an FSP? I do not have an FSP. And somebody's going to borrow such amounts. They know legislature. And you must know that if something goes wrong, that's going to come back to your company again. So we need to really understand, when I'm talking about other people's money, what does other people's money, and who talked about other people's money? Because don't forget, if somebody who's on a platform whereby they have FSP and they know that it's easy to get other people's money, I'm not saying that it's easy in terms of I can just go on YouTube and ask somebody to go money. I have a platform and I know people that have certain X amount of net worth. And when I ask for money, they know for sure that this person is a shark in this game with regards to return on investment. And now I can easily give them that because it's been tried and tested. Now, if you are a bit, you need to strategically position yourself that how am I going to position myself so that I get an FSP or so that I know all the laws with regards to other people's money and I understand the true meaning of other people's money. So that is homework. That is homework that we need to do. We need
definitely. I like it. Okay, you can continue.
The thing that I want to highlight in terms of where should the 18-year-old start. So now remember, the first objective that you are going to have as someone who's coming out from school is that this person is young. They probably don't have a good deal. That's the first thing that you're going to have. The second thing is that when you're documenting your stuff, you don't know how to document it. Chances are you don't know how to document it. Unless if one of your siblings or someone in your family has been into property investing, then it would be easier for you to actually go in. So now for someone like me who actually started without no one knowing property investing, you need a mentor who's going to actually show you that, okay, this is how you actually this is how you're going to document your stuff. This is how you're going to actually present it to the particular or the potential investor. So now when you're going to present to your investor and saying that, okay, this is a deal, you need to be in a certain way in terms of they need to actually trust that this is a good deal. Because now remember, most sourcing agents will tell you that, okay, you're going to charge them 20,000 for actually giving them this deal. So now, what are the chances of a person, say at the age of 35 to 40, giving you money for this particular deal, right? So now another question is that we were also one sourcing agent, and now the first question that we got is that, where did you get this deal? And we're like, no, we got it from Property 24. And it's like, what stops me from actually calling the agent and not going directly to you? So now this shows you that you need two funnels. You need a funnel whereby you're going to be getting these deals. You need also a funnel whereby you're going to have your investors. So now once you have your investors sorted out, you need to get a funnel whereby your deals are actually going to be coming, and now these are going to be off market. It makes sense for me to take out 20,000 from my pocket and give it to you if the deal is off market. But now if I can just simply go onto Property 24, call the estate agent up and tell them that, okay, this is the deal that I'm actually looking for, then it doesn't become actually sensible for me to actually not call the estate agent. So now I think the most important part there is that you need to get people you need to get deals rather that are not on the market.
Great. Also, I was also just about to touch up on something like that, basically, but you just answered that question for me regarding the real estate and how does the real estate market works. But I just want to get a little bit in depth, a little bit also on that. With the real estate market, would you guys call yourself a real estate business, or you're like just individuals basically who are just buying and selling property?
Okay. So now your question was that, can you please just repeat the question?
I just wanted to know, for instance, for people who don't know, are y'all more sort of a real estate company, or do y'all like directly buy and sell property?
I'd say it's buying and selling. It's more of private, because with real estate, I think this is a very important question that you're asking, so that people understand what's the difference between a property investor and real estate. Now, if I'm a real estate agent or a real estate company, that's when I list properties. So I'd rather when I'm doing marketing, I'm asking you that, do you have a property that you want me to sell for you? Whereas with us, that's how I make my profit, by that commission that I'm going to make. Whereas with us, what we do as property investors, we buy the property and then we see, is it good for a flip or is it good for rental? So it's good. If it's good for rental, I'm going to rent it and get that return on investment on a monthly basis, in comparison to just selling and getting that commission. Whereas with flip, I'm going to actually buy it below market value, do renovation, then sell it at a higher price, then still get that profit. However, now I'm, as a property investor, I do not have the license to sell. So now what's going to happen is that that's when I'm going to get a real estate agent to sell my property on my behalf.
I think I like that you actually highlighted that part, because now when you're looking at a real estate agent and when you're looking at a property investor, we need to understand that these are two different people, right? We hear a lot of people coming to us, okay, guys, you guys are property investors. That means that you can list a deal for us. No, a property investor would be someone that goes into the market, buys a house, renovates it, and then sells it, or they're going to buy this particular house and then rent it out, right? Whereas
privately, that's privately.
Yes, a real estate agent.
Just get that clear.
Yes, the real estate agent will be the one of the people that are in your power team that will help you to sell that particular house.
Sure. Great. That's such a beautiful explanation. Like one thing that I also noticed, like a lot of people normally confuse with real estate and property. They normally think most of the time it's just one thing, because everything has to do with housing. So there's always a clash between those two words, like the actual explanation. When you get the actual explanation, then you get to understand, like, oh, these are two different things. So if I want to get into this, I need this. If I want to get into this, I need this. Also, one thing that I want to know at this moment, looking at the property space in South Africa, because we are in South Africa, how would you rate the property space at this moment? Is this a good time to buy, or is this a good time to sell within the property? I just want to know an overlay of your thoughts. What is the current situation of the whole property space at this moment?
Okay, I like that you asked that question. It's both, right? It's both. The reason why I'm saying that is that a lot of people outside are telling you that if you don't buy now, you're going to lose out. A lot of people are telling you that a lot of millionaires are actually made around about this time. And this actually puts pressure on people to actually go out and start buying property. It's a good market right now if you know what you're buying. If you are guaranteed, if someone would come to you and ask you that, okay, let's sit down with a pen and paper, and you are going to actually tell me the reasons why you actually bought this particular property. And you are able to tell me that, okay, these are going to be my monthly expenses. This is going to be my income. This is how much I'm actually projecting that in the next 5 years I'm going to be getting. This is what I'm actually projecting that the value of this particular property is. This is how much I actually bought it below market value. Then it's a good idea to actually buy right now, right? But now, if you can't actually explain that, and you're only telling me about the interest rates went down, then that's not property. It depends. Or if you do actually know what you're actually buying in this particular market, then it's the best time to actually be buying. But now, if you don't understand what you're actually buying, then don't do
that. Touching on the interest rate, could you just kindly on a 2-sentence for me, because interest rate plays a very big role when it comes to property. It actually what determines most of the time the GDP of the country. So could you just kindly explain, like, how does the interest rate affects the property market, like the drop and the rise of the interest rate?
Okay, so now when you're looking at an interest rate, say for instance, at first our interest rate was at, you have your prime lending rate and you also have your repo rate, right? So now when you're looking at your prime lending rate, I sometimes confuse the two, but now when you're looking at your repo rate rather, this is how the banks go to the Reserve Bank and ask for the money from them, right? So now if the repo rate goes down, then the prime lending rate is what we would actually go to the bank and ask at the bank that, okay, can you please borrow me X amount of money? Then the bank will say that, okay, since you're asking for, say for instance, 10,000, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to stretch it throughout 5 years, and then I'm going to charge you on property, it's going to be around 7% to 8%. So now this is going to actually depend on your credit score and how risky are you to the bank, right? So now the bank will say that, okay, I'm going to give you at 7%. So now what the bank does is that it borrows money from the Reserve Bank. After borrowing money from the Reserve Bank, it borrows the money to us. So now, once it gets the money from the Reserve Bank and gives it to us, that means that the market actually becomes stimulated, because now people are exactly what we just talked about right now. People get encouraged to actually go out and buy stuff. So now, the reason why interest rates actually go down is to actually encourage people to buy more stuff. on credit. So now, once we get more people buying, then our economy actually goes up. But now, if our interest rates are
Yes.
actually, it now discourages people to actually start buying. So now, what that does is that it actually decreases the GDP, as you actually said.
Great, great. Thanks a lot for pointing that out, because also I also had like confusion when it comes to the interest rate and how it works and stuff like that, how it affects the economy. It really had me going dear my God at once upon a time. So another thing that I've noticed that I just also want to touch base on is that a lot of us black folks, or should I say most of the people actually do this. We like to focus on what can I say is umqashiso. So I want to get to know your thoughts of more of like how do people can actually build a good amount of money from like renting a one room, or maybe having a whole row of rooms, renting it out. How can those people actually build a nice sustainable money to actually get into buying properties? Or would you say that having those kind of rooms whereby you're renting out per month, let's just say 500, 1,000 rand, is a good investment than property? Which would you actually suggest is the best? And just kind of elaborate more on, if like for instance the amount of money could be made within the normal basic, whereby you have your maybe your 5 or 6 rooms, and or your house that's maybe let's just say your 200,000 household that you want to sell. So which would you say is much more better in the long run?
I mean, township investing, I think this is what you're referring to. Township investing is a thing. So
Yes.
now with regards to township investing, how do we capitalize on it? Because we also did speak about the importance of credit. So now if I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking that money and I'm not putting it in a bank whereby the bank can see that, okay, this person has X amount of expenses and this person does have that cash flow coming through, how am I going to build my credit score? That's the first question that I should be asking
Yes.
myself. Number one, I need to treat this as a business so that I'm able to scale. Because now, if I
Mm-hmm.
don't treat it as a business, it's going to be harder to scale. Number two is that we need to do it the right. I know it's kind of hard doing it the right way with regards to getting an approved plan. So getting your approved plan. So if
Yes.
you get your plan approved before you even build, that's a bonus, because even when you decide to sell, let's say you're about to sell it 10 years from now, you already know that the municipality knows that you have X amount of rooms and everything is done legally, even with regards to the wiring of the electricity, the
Yes.
water, everything is on board, so that it's not a problem for you when you decide to sell later on. Yeah.
So
So
now, okay, so now when you're looking at your township investing, I love this subject because now your township is the investing is where your money is. But now when you do it the correct
Yes.
way, that's when you're able to actually scale up even more. So now what do I mean by this? Say for instance, you're looking at an RTP, right? An RTP that is selling
Yes.
at, say for instance, 100,000. Now this person
Mm-hmm.
actually decided to say that, okay, I'm going to come through on this particular RTP and build back rooms around it. So now, because we are playing the credit game, I need this particular RTP to be registered with the municipal. Because now what that does is that
Yes.
it increases the value of this particular property. So now say for instance, this particular RTP, the person got an approved plan on this particular RTP and the price actually goes up to around 300,000 of this
Mm-hmm.
particular RTP, right? So now the value of this particular RTP actually increased. So now what happens in this particular case, I can then go to the bank and tell the bank that, okay, you know what, I want to refinance. What refinance basically means is that I'm actually going to take out equity which is how much I'm actually owning in this particular house. I'm going to take that out as a loan and then reinvest it in another property. So now, if the municipal doesn't know that my house is worth 300,000, or if they didn't actually approve that my house is going to be worth 300,000, then it becomes a problem for me to go back to the bank and tell the bank that, okay, I have these back rooms that are actually in this particular property. Because now, what happens most of the
Yes.
time is people actually buy these particular houses and then only to find out that they don't have an approved plan. So now,
Uh-huh.
why is it necessary for them to have an approved plan? Say, for instance, this person actually built whereby there's pipes that are actually going past that particular property, right? So now, if there's a
Yeah.
blockage to that particular property on that particular spot there, then what happens is that the government needs to actually come through and dig a hole on that particular property, which means that you need to
Yeah.
demolish the whole property. So now, if it is approved, that means that this piping system there of yours is not going to actually be affecting the particular property. So now I have one client whereby I actually built a house on the pipes, and then the pipes actually burst, and then it created a damage in that particular room. And then that property investor
Yeah.
got. So now you need to be actually looking at those small things that can actually damage your property genuinely.
I understand. So another thing that I also want to touch, because a lot of people like don't know this, like what actually determines the value of property in an area, because I do understand that in certain areas property prices do fluctuate. So just a small hint or small advice, what actually determines the price of property in an area? I'm not talking like South African wise, like in an area base.
Okay. In an area one, there's so many things that actually determine that, or that influence, if I should say, that influence the property market, the property price. One of the most important thing is what is currently happening in the market. So if I have an identical property next door to Level, and then we same number of pools, same number of toilets, like they're twins, if I should say. It's just that
Yes.
now maybe say the coating and everything else is different. So now if I manage to sell mine at 9 million, now I'm calling on 9 million 9 million property in the near future. So if I manage to sell mine for 9 million, and let's say
We're getting there.
Let's say even same applies to you, that you also had identical. So now we have triplets. So now these properties, yours, we were able to sell it at 9 million within that year. Now what's going to determine if Levels sell he needs to look at what has been happening in the market. So he's going to look, okay, two houses are identical to mine and they sold for 9 million. So now it's up to him. He can say, you know what, I'm going to sell mine at 8.9 or 8.5 or even 9.5. But he knows that the market is playing 9 million. So that's looking at your track record on the market, that what is happening right now in the market. And then the second thing, you're selling it as a business. The second thing, if you're selling it as a business, you're also selling the cash flow with it. So if I know that I've got X amount of tenants, that is also going to influence, because I'm not only selling the property itself, I'm also selling the cash flow with it. So you as the investor, it's going to be quite different how I sell that to you.
Okay, and another thing also that I also want to touch about is now it's more going a little bit off topic, but it's still in the same topic, is that one thing that I've came across a lot of people that they want to get invested, they want to get started investing in property. So I normally advise them, how about starting to look at, for instance, like your property companies, like buying shares in property companies. Would you suggest that to be a great idea for people that actually want to start investing in property, to actually start investing in property companies before getting to understand what goes on in the process that happens when buying and selling a property? Would you suggest anybody to actually take that route in investing in property companies, like buying shares, for instance, on the Easy Equities or in the JSE, something like that?
I think our approach, me and Level's approach towards any type of investment, is very harsh. It's harsh to a point whereby I don't want to invest in something that's trending right now, and then I don't know what's actually fueling that trend. I'm not saying that do not invest in shares and equity. I'm saying that understand what pushes shares, understand what pushes equity, understand the pros and cons of it, so that when you go into it, you know 100% about it. So it's not necessarily something that's how you heard somebody talk about it and you saw a picture on Twitter that they made X amount of money.
We have that a lot.
Sure. So even with property investing itself, even with us, hence we did say that we took. I even know with one of the people in our circle, they said that it took them 5 years to actually understand property investing. That's the only time they went in. And I'm not saying that it should take 5 years, everybody with whatever that you want to invest in. I'm just saying, let us invest. When I'm saying invest, I'm not talking about capital. I'm saying emotional. I'm talking about time. I'm talking about devoting yourself, because so you know that you are in it 100%. I think that's when we can rather run away from being scammed, because there's so many scams out there. I mean, even today I saw something on WhatsApp where whereby people are being scammed. And even with Forex itself, Forex is not a scam. There are people that are living off it, however, in the right way, in a sustainable way, because they invest in themselves. So what I would say is that invest in yourself so that you know, whether it's gold, whether it's commodities, whether it's Forex, whatever, invest in yourself.
I really love what you're saying right there, because when people normally use the term investing or invest, the receiver normally receive the message as in, I have to invest money in a certain thing to gain something back, whereby they do not leave that gap. Okay, when they're talking about invest, because if I must say, I think I think it was the second video that I actually did on my YouTube channel. I actually went out to talk about investing, but investing in yourself, how you can invest in yourself, because I just wanted to get that message out there. When a person talks about investing, it's not just investing money wise. No, it's all about education. Education is the first step of investment. What, touching base on that, what books would you actually recommend for people to actually read just to get a better understanding on property and finance? Because property and finance is one thing for me. Like, you need to understand finance for you to actually get into property. So what books would you recommend? Okay, besides Rich Dad Poor Dad, that's the king. Everybody knows that that's the king of the king. What other books would you recommend?
But it's quite interesting. I think with Rich Dad Poor Dad, that's what actually put us in. But now, as you grow, that's when you get deeper. That's when you get your mind will actually go where you'll be challenged in so many ways. I can even tell you. I wanted to tell you Levo's favorite book that he was recommended, but I don't want to spoil it. So he'll tell you.
When you're looking at books that you have to read, I think this was the books that I said that, you know what, I need to pass this down to my kids, so that when they do actually get these books, they understand what they need to be doing. So now, before investing much, you need to invest in yourself, as we had actually pointed out. So now, investing in yourself, meaning that you can actually see yourself there, right? So now we have a lot of people that are saying that, no, it can't be possible that I can actually buy a property that can actually rent out. So now already they're self-sabotaging themselves, right? So now the first thing I think that I'd like to recommend, it's Neo's one, the Think and Grow Rich. So now what Think and Grow Rich will it will actually
Napoleon Hill.
Yes, yes. It will actually allow
beautiful.
you.
I listened to the audio of the book. It's quite long and it's amazing book. Amazing
stuff. So now it actually enables you now thinking bigger, right? And then we also have a richest man in Babylon. So now when you're looking at the richest man in Babylon, this is how you are actually going to be using your mind. It tells you, or it shows you how you're going to be using your mind. So now the richest man in Babylon goes hand in hand. I mean, it's a long list, man. The richest man in Babylon, it goes hand in hand with the art of money getting, right? The art of money getting. And then the last one is the art of the deal by Ross. It was written based on Donald Trump and how he was able to actually get these properties. So now those are the 4 books I would like to recommend. But now the one that actually speaks about practically investing into property, it's this one of The Art of the Deal.
What's the name of it?
The Art of the Deal by George Ross.
The Art of the Deal. Yes. I think I'm gonna look that up.
By George Ross.
Okay. Before we actually wrap up, can you just please give some advice, like whatever advice can you give to especially the young kids out there, what are not kids, like people that are actually in university or in college? What advice would you actually give out to them, for instance, like to follow their path in whatever career that they take, or like what path can they take if they want to become more of self-employed, like in an industry whereby it's mostly dominant by huge corporate companies? What advice would you have for them for them to actually get started? Some inspiration. What advice would you have?
I think the first one is study the market. Whatever you do, study the market before you actually go in.
Perfect.
Right. Number 2 is that you need to understand that the process for you, it might take longer than what it did for other people.
Sure.
Right. So now if you are 5 years in, and you still feel like you're stuck, don't give up. Don't give up. Your breakthrough, I think this is what is actually keeping us alive, is that the breakthrough might be tomorrow. It might be tomorrow's video that will actually put you on, right? So now,
You never know.
Understand the process and also study what the big person. So number one thing is that you need to actually find who's actually killing that industry, right? So now, when you're looking at someone that's actually killing that industry, say for instance, you're looking at e-commerce. E-commerce, you were looking at Jeff Bezos being the first person who actually did that Amazon thing, right? So now you need to study it. So now from his humble beginnings up to where he is right now, you need to study that whole process to actually understand how to actually put yourself in a manner whereby you won't be self-sabotaging. So now what a lot of people do is they say that, okay, I'm going to start my business and I'm just starting. They don't have someone to actually mirror. So now once you have that person who's actually killing the industry, and I'm not saying killing the industry in terms of like this person is not known. This person needs to be known because now that's where you actually want to be. So now find that person that you're actually going to be mirroring. Is that even a word? Find a mirror whereby this is the person that you actually going to be working with, and then study how they actually went through their journey, and then mirror that journey and actually move forward. That's what I can say.
And then for me, I think we need to do away with. I think we're more harsh. You know, we watch too many soldier movies. That's why we're so harsh. And it brings precision and it brings reality to you that we need to remove this thing of becoming instant winners wherever. Where it's a job, you need to know that you're going to start down. And the only way you're going to get up there, you know that you need to prove yourself and you need to work very hard. You need to put in something. And another thing is that do not think that if you're not going to work on time or you're not getting there early or you're not actually giving that extra effort that you are cheating your boss. You're actually cheating yourself from being an excellent person. So this thing, we need to do away with it. Same applies even with entrepreneurship. Trust me. The best day it's drafting that idea that this is the idea that I'm going to do of entrepreneurship. And then tomorrow when the implementation comes, that's when the real work is done. Day after tomorrow.
Because one thing that
day after tomorrow when you fail for the first time, that's the first lesson. That's the first lesson of life whereby you fail and you're like, wow, what can I learn from this? Or it's going to be, you know what, this is not for me. So you need to actually understand the art of failure. I think this is one of the things that we need to speak about, the art of. So we need. I'm putting this to level that he needs to write a book about the art of failure. There's so much lessons in failure, and we run away.
To be honest, like to be honest, like what you're saying, like the art of failure is something that's really not being talked about. We mostly focus on success. Everything is about success, and we lack like communicating about failure because now nobody wants to talk about failure. So automatically, when somebody fails at a particular thing, they just stress about it, and it becomes a huge issue. Why? Is because we're actually not talking about failure and how we can actually overcome that failure and look at it in a good prospective way. I do feel that one day we really need to just have a specific topic like that topic, just talk about failure and understand how failure actually grows a person mentally and like spiritually wise, actually, because it leaves you with an experience.
Sure. I want to take it further. I just wrote it down, and I'm first going to check because I don't want to get sued. I'm first going to check is there such a book, and then if there's no such a book, there's an opportunity. So you see, opportunity came through failure. That's the first topic that we can actually write about. Opportunity came through failure. So yeah.
So guys,
art of failure and see.
So before we actually wrap up, there's something that I'm just gonna fire up some questions right now. I need fast answers. I was just doing some research over here, and this came across me. What does the Bible say about investing? Do you guys know?
True. I mean, this is one of the more something that actually fires us up. The talent. When we speak about the talent, I mean, if we know that we are all given talents according to what we can handle. So if we do not invest, there shall be punishment accordingly. So let's make most of what we have, guys. Let's make most of what we have. So even if it's not, and don't forget that, hence I like the terming of talent. So now in terms of talent, we're not speaking about money. So even if you do not have money, that's not an excuse. So your talent can be your brain. It can be the skill that you have. So nobody has an excuse with regards to this. We need to introspect and see what talent we have, then multiply.
I also think that
Yeah.
also you'll reap what you sow.
Yes, yes, yes,
This
yes.
good,
So,
both
okay,
ways. With a lot of people, they think that reap what you sow should be a bad thing. It's also a good thing. If I'm investing right now in the property, I'm going to reap what I sowed. So now, if you're also not investing right now, you're going to reap what you sow.
yes, yes, yes. And the more you don't do nothing, the more you're going to reap poverty. Oh, it's obvious. It's such an obvious thing to see. It's such an obvious
Yes.
thing. Okay, guys, before we actually wrap up, I would like for y'all to actually like share the where can people get a hold of y'all, for instance, if they have any other questions regarding property, or basically they want to gain more knowledge. How do people get in touch with y'all via social networks and other your other contact details?
Okay. In terms of our social networks, I think that I like to believe that we are everywhere. So now you can catch us on Instagram. We have Twitter. We're on TikTok. We're also on YouTube. So now it's on Nongwell. Also
LinkedIn.
type Nongwell. Also LinkedIn, and also if anybody wants to actually send us an email, you can send it at property@nongwell.co.za, and we can actually have a chat.
Great. Great, great, great. So guys, I really like to thank you all for your time. This has been a great conversation, and I think, or hopefully, we should conversate at a later stage, because like with property, it's such a huge or a vast industry whereby there's a lot of things that basically we haven't touched on, and I still have a ton of questions. I thought I was going to ask all these questions, but coming to see where the conversation was moving, I had to move with the conversation, as you could see. But like I really like to thank you all for your time and being here with me and sharing the information that you have shared to the viewers. And I really hope we can do this sometime again in the near future.
No, most definitely. Most definitely. We only
So anyways, guys, survive the coronavirus. You'll survive the coronavirus. You can survive anything now. There's nothing that can stop you all now. You're on the way to riches and riches and riches. So I wish you all the best, and stay safe and be great.
Cheers to everybody who's watching. Hope we did value to you.
A lot. Thanks a lot. I'll see you on the flip side, guys.
Cheers.